Good morning. This is section 2.4, Subtract Real Numbers, part 1. Okay, so let's see what we have going on here. All right, so we talked yesterday, remember, about in section 2.3 and 2.4, let's not use any calculators, okay, because we really want to understand these concepts, okay? So there's a few different ways. So we talked about a lot of things yesterday. We're going to kind of look at it in a little bit of a different perspective today with the adding and subtracting positives and negatives, okay? So when we combine signs, we want to try to make them just be a single sign, okay? That's going to make it way easier. So like here, let me go ahead and circle it or maybe underline it. This plus a negative, adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting, right? That's how we ended yesterday, was once we came up with that pattern that we saw was that adding a negative was the same thing as subtracting. So anytime that you see a plus and then a minus, just change it over to subtraction. It's going to make it easier, okay? Now, whenever you see that next part, where underneath here where it says opposite of, see that 8 minus a negative 3? You can go ahead and rewrite that as 8 plus 3. And here, this document describes it as opposite of. So minus means opposite of a negative. What I find most students actually like to do is just take that minus and make it a giant single plus sign. So watch this. I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to go connect it up into a giant plus. So it would have just been 8 plus 3. Okay, so a lot of students prefer that method. Okay, so now, number 1 says rewrite each of the following with only one sign between each term and then combine. Okay, so go ahead, take a minute or two, try that on your own, come back when you're ready. All right, so for A, that one should have been okay because it looks just like that first one up there that we looked at, right? That 5 plus a negative 4. So negative 7 plus a negative 3. So remember, adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. So we have a minus 7 minus 3. Okay, so we have a negative 7, and we want to take away 3 more. Now we're at negative 10. Okay, it's like saying you were in the hole $7. Now you're in the hole $3 more. So in total, you're in the hole $10. Okay. Now for part B, this is where I find most students like to make it be a giant plus sign. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. If you prefer a different way, totally fine, as long as you get the same answer. Okay. So 2 plus 9 is 11. Negative 9 minus a plus 6. We didn't have one that looked exactly like this. So let's see how you did with this one. A negative 9. Now this minus a plus 6. Wouldn't that just be minus a 6, right? Because we already know it's positive, right? So why would you say minus a positive 6? Just say minus 6. Okay, so then negative 9 minus that 6. We're looking at negative 15. There we go. All right, these ones are a little bit bigger. Okay, so for problem 2, I've got 4 of them here. Go ahead and hit pause and give it your best shot, okay? So go ahead and give these a try. You know what, I'm going to write the answers to each of them real quick so that you can come back and then check your answer, and then I'll come back in and show the work, okay? So I'm just going to write it. I'm going to write it kind of big, and then I'll erase it. So this one's going to end up being negative 12. And 2. So you might want to write these down as well. This one's 8, and this one's negative 4.6. Just so if you don't end up with these answers, then you can go ahead and retry the problem before you hit play to see the work done. Okay, so go ahead and write these down. Remember, no calculator, okay? So go ahead and pause it here. Come back when you're ready to see the work. Okay, so for A, a lot going on here, right? So first I'm seeing this minus a minus. I'm going to change it into a giant plus. So let's see what I have here so far is negative 2 plus 1. And then see this plus and negative. That's where we just write minus, right? So instead of plus and negative 5, I'm going to have minus 5. And then that minus 6 on the end, that looks good. So minus 6. Now, go left to right. Okay, we haven't quite done the order of operations yet. We're getting there. That will be section 2.6, I think. But whenever we have adding and subtracting, we just want to go left to right. Okay, so I'm going to kind of do this just so you can see what I'm working on. So negative 2 plus 1 will be a negative 1 minus 5 minus 6. And still going left to right. And negative 1 minus 5, that's a negative 6 minus 6. And negative 6 minus 6 is negative 12. Okay, for B, that's a minus minus, so I'll change that to a giant plus. Equals, and they have common denominators, so that means we can add straight across the top. So that would be a 2 plus 8 over 5, which is 10 over 5. And I can reduce that down to 2. Do you see I'm showing my work vertically? Like I'm trying to go from top down to bottom. So I have one line equals the next line equals the next line equals the next line. Work really hard on showing your work that way. Because in the next unit, I'm pretty sure it's the next one, maybe the one after, we're going to be working on equations. And this is a super good habit to set up now with showing your work vertically. So that we're prepared for that equation section. Okay, so for C, got a lot going on here, right? I'm going to go through, mark all my double negatives into a big plus sign. So here we go. And one more over here. I'm going to rewrite it. So now I have 6 plus 4. Bring down that minus 2. Remember that the plus and negative here, plus and negative is really just a minus. So we have a minus 8 and plus that 8. Now we have all plus and minus with those single signs. Looks perfect. So let's go ahead and combine one at a time, left to right. So there's 10. I'm just going to rewrite the rest. Now I have 10 minus 2. Bring down the rest. 8 minus 8 is 0. Finally, my answer is 8. Okay, moving on to D. So we have plus and negative, so it's really just subtracting. 2.5 minus a 7.1. So just thinking about this in general, 2.5 minus a big number, it's going to end up being negative, right? So to actually figure out what that number is by hand, I'm going to do some side work here of 7.1 minus a 2.5. Okay, so I'm going to do the subtraction real quick. So I'm getting 4.6, and I know it's negative because it's 2.5 minus something bigger than that 2.5. So it's a minus 4.6 is my final answer. All right, very good. Go ahead and turn the page. And here we have, how do we define the change in a quantity? Okay, so you don't know what this part means yet. This will be in your book. Some of the questions might ask you to describe what the change is. So the change in a quantity, I'm going to write this out. Change in quantity equals your end amount minus the beginning amount. Okay, and we'll see that here coming up. I'll leave it there just in case you're still writing. Number 4, the balances of single employer pension programs are shown in the following table for various years. Okay, so it looks like we're looking at 1998, going up 1 year at a time to 2004, and that balance looks like it's 5, and that's in billions of dollars, and then kind of goes up, back down, 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 and down, all the way to negative 23.3. So for part A, it says find the change in the balance from 1998 to 1999. What does your result mean? So let's look at 1998 is 5, right? And 1999 is 7. And they want to know what the change is. So we start with our ending amount. So it looks like it ended that 1999. So it's a 7 minus the beginning amount they said from 1998. So they're starting in 1998. So the end is 7.0 minus 5.0. That would equal 2.0. And what does that mean? That means that the pension program's balance increased by $2 billion. All right. So, and then if you go back and you look at the chart, that makes sense, right? From 1998 to 1999, that was just 1 year. Went from 5 to 7. So it did. It increased by $2 billion. Let's see. How about let's have you do B and C. Go ahead and try B and C and come back when you're ready. Okay, so from B, it says find the change in the balance from 2002 to 2003. What does your result mean? Okay, so 2002 was negative 3.6. 2003 was negative 11.2. To find our change, we show where we ended up at. We ended up at negative 11.2. And then we subtract where we started, and we started at that negative 3.6. Okay, so now minus a negative, that's really a giant plus. So we're looking at negative 11.2 plus a 3.6. So that's a big number plus a little bit, but not enough to make it positive. So we know it's going to be negative. So off to the side, I'm going to do 11.2 minus that 3.6. And I'm getting 7.6. So remember, it's a negative 7.6. And what does the result mean? That the balance decreased by $7.6 billion. For part C, find the change in the balance from 2001 to 2002. What does that mean? So in 2002, remember that's our ending amount, so minus a 3.6, and then subtracting our starting amount, which was in 2001, looks like a 7.7. So now I have a negative 3.6, and I'm going to subtract a 7.7, so that means it's going to get even bigger in the negative, right? So it's already negative 3.6 with another 7.7. So off to the side, I'm going to do 3.6 plus 7.7. I'm going to get 11.3. So remember, it's already negative. I'm making it even more negative. So that's how I need to add them together to get that minus 11.3. And what does that mean? That the balance decreased by $11.3 billion. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and do D and E, and then we'll stop for today, okay? We'll finish off 2.4 tomorrow. So let's just do D and E. Go ahead and try those right now. So hit pause, come back when you're ready. Okay, so for D, it said, is the balance from 2003 to 2004 increasing or decreasing? So let me go and look. Let me scroll back up. 2003 to 2004. Let's see, it went from negative 11.2 to an even bigger negative 23.3. So that means it is decreasing. And if you were to calculate the change, would you expect the change to be positive or negative? Well, since it's decreasing, it's going to be negative. And finally, for part E, calculate the change from 2003 to 2004. Okay, so they asked us that it was decreasing. We said it was negative. So now we're going to actually calculate it and check, does our result align with what we thought would happen? Okay, so it looks like the 2004, let me scroll up again, was negative 23.3. Okay, so that's our ending amount. So negative 23.3 minus our starting amount, which is in 2003. So I'm going to scroll back up. Oh, at negative 11.2. Negative 11.2. Okay. So now we have that minus and negative. Let's change it to a giant plus. Okay, so we have a negative 23.3 plus 11.2. So that change, let's go and find that. So off to the side, I'm going to do 23.3 minus an 11.2. So I have 12.1. So negative 23, that's a big negative, plus getting a little bit more, right? So we're adding 11, so it's not going to be quite as negative, but we do know it's still negative, a negative 12.1. And that looks like it did align with what we thought. It was decreasing, so it was a negative number. All right, very good. I hope that you have an amazing day.